Well, welcome to week 3 of our series, Homecoming. This week we're talking about saints, and I want to know what you think about exactly who can be a saint. Can a gamer be a saint? Can a skier be a saint? Can a doctor be a saint? Can a spy or a soldier be a saint? Who can be a saint? Well, to answer that question, let's start with what a saint is. Like we have throughout this series, we can look at saints as a tradition in our faith and give saints a new spin. Traditions, remember, are things that we look forward to. At your school's homecoming, there's probably Spirit Week and bonfires, football games, homecoming court, parade. There's other traditions that are unique to your school. And we feel like we're part of something when we participate in them. Well, here is the tradition around saints in our Catholic faith. A saint is a holy person who's in heaven. And there are really 2 ways that we talk about saints. One is a saint is anyone and everyone who is in heaven. That means you and I should hope to be saints to get there someday. And second, on this side of heaven, the church recognizes that there are particularly noteworthy people whose lives serve as examples for us. And it's not like in heaven there are levels of saints and holiness, but in this life there are people whose lives are so heroic, so admirable, that we ask for their prayers and follow their example. So how do you become a recognized, canonized Catholic saint? Check this out.
How to become a saint. Contrary to popular belief, saints weren't altogether perfect people during their lifetimes. But it's not good works alone that garner you a spot next to Francis of Assisi. You will need an exemplary life and miracles attributed to your intercession. Step 1. Die. The Vatican usually requires a 5-year waiting period after a person's death even to begin the process towards sainthood. Even after death, you've got your work cut out for you. Step 2. After 5 years, what is known as a cause may be initiated with the individual's local bishop and then with the Vatican's Congregation for Sainthood Causes. Step 3. A postulator will lead the cause and serve in charge of the investigation of the deceased's virtue and miracles attributed to him or her. Step 4. If the Pope recognizes the candidate as having heroic virtues, the Pope may deem him or her venerable, the first step towards sainthood. Martyrdom, or dying for the faith, can also result in the venerable title. Step 5. In general, the verification of 2 miracles attributed to the intercession of the candidate is required for canonization. The miracles can occur during the person's lifetime or after he or she is dead. Step 6. After 1 miracle, the Pope may beatify the candidate, the second step towards sainthood. The candidate is then called blessed. Step 7. If the Vatican verifies an additional miracle, canonization may follow. Step 8. Should you make it to sainthood, expect to be very busy for subsequent millennia. Catholics pray that saints intercede with God on their behalf. That's running some heavy interference. Did you know? During his pontificate, Pope John Paul II proclaimed 482 saints, more than all his predecessors over the previous 400 years combined.
So the tradition with saints is that they are holy people recognized by the Catholic Church. You might also remember that at your confirmation, you choose a saint whose name you take. Many of you are in that process of choosing a saint right now. What I want to know, though, is what difference does that make in your life? What do these ancient people have to do with you? I mean, they lived in a very different world than you do today. Pope John Paul II asked basically the same thing. He thought all the saints of the church that were recognized, at least, were kind of boring. Now, I doubt that he said those words exactly, but did you catch what he did from that video? He named 482 saints, more than all the popes that had proclaimed in the 400 years before him. And why did he do that? Because he wanted saints that we could relate to. He wanted us to have saints who looked like us and had ordinary circumstances, but who lived extraordinary lives. In short, he wanted us to have heroes. Here's the bottom line. We need heroes. They give us a purpose and help along the way. Heroes call us to something bigger and better than what we're living now. I bet you have heroes. If you're a snowboarder, maybe you followed Shaun White in his 5th and final Olympics. If you're a violinist, you probably know Itzhak Perlman. If you want to be a YouTube influencer, you know who PewDiePie is. And whether you like him or not, you have probably tried to figure out why so many people watch him. Whether they know it or not, Heroes inspire us and help us become better versions of ourselves. But not all heroes are the same. Not all heroes have the best qualities. You might really admire the golf game of Tiger Woods, but his personal life, that's kind of a mess. The great thing about saints is that they're normal people. They're not without their faults, but we can be sure that they are people who are worthy of being our heroes. One of our student leaders, Tristan, has been thinking about her heroes. Here's what she has to say about saints.
In the Catholic world, we have a lot of saints, such as St. Michael the Archangel, St. Francis of Assisi, St. Catherine of Siena, St. Joseph, and St. Jude. I personally look up to St. Anthony. He has always been able to help me find things when I need it. St. Anthony is known for finding lost items. Last week, I lost a book that I really needed for school. I looked everywhere for it, in my locker, in my bedroom, all over the house, and I couldn't find it. That was when I prayed to St. Anthony, and then there it was, my book, in between my textbooks on my desk. He is always someone who helps me find things that I need. Looking to a saint for anything is really helpful. Many of us make mistakes, and it's normal. God is always willing to forgive us, and I can't tell you how many times I have slipped up or made a mistake. More recently, I got stuck. I was put into a position that was not a good place. This past week has been a nightmare and a half for me. I got into some trouble with school. Yeah, real life here. The people I was with had something to do with it, and I made a choice I shouldn't have. I'm still dealing with the consequences and trying to come out better on the other side of things. I found this saint that I really admire. His name is Matt Talbot. Even though it was not the same situation, he repeatedly struggled with the same bad choice. For him, it was alcohol, but with God's help and some serious work, he overcame that. I am learning and overcoming this mess that I got myself into. I will not let this define me, and you should not either with your mistakes. We all get into messes, but it's how we choose to learn from them. So next time you make a mistake or get into some trouble, I encourage you to really take it and learn from it, because you and I both know that you don't want to make the same mistake again.
That's real life. That's taking a tradition from our faith and making it your own. Now, I asked at the beginning of this message who you think a saint is. Can a gamer be a saint, or a skier, a doctor, a spy, or a soldier? And the answer to all of these is yes. So here are a few of my favorite saints. Carlo Acutis was a gamer. He was a teenage saint who was alive in the 2000s. He loved his PlayStation, but even more, he loved the Eucharist. He cataloged Eucharistic miracles starting at age 11, and he died of leukemia at age 15 in 2006. Pier Giorgio Frassati was a skier. He also hiked and he loved the mountains. When he died at age 24, thousands of people lined the streets in the small town of Turin, Italy, because they knew and loved Pier Giorgio from his work with the poor and sick. Gianna Beretta Molla was an accomplished pediatrician. She was also a wife and mother. She had a complicated pregnancy with her fourth child, but she refused to abort the child and risked her own life, ultimately dying, but saving her daughter, who is a doctor herself today. In the Mexican Cristeros War, Christianity was outlawed. Miguel Pro was a priest and a spy who would go to people's homes to celebrate Mass in secret. Jose Sanchez del Rio was a 12-year-old who broke ranks to join the fight for religious freedom. Miguel and Jose were both executed in public as the military tried to make examples of them, but they bravely shouted, "Viva Cristo Rey! Long live Christ the King." All of these saints were courageous. All of them had fairly ordinary and simple choices to make. And all of them modeled what it means to live full, incredible, memorable, holy lives. And all of them are cheering us on if we take the time to listen. That's part of what happens at homecoming. In our schools, we want to be part of something. So we wear school colors, we get hyped up, we root for our teams, we have pep rallies, and we're united in cheering for each other. Perhaps at homecoming, we see our peers and admire what they can do. They become heroes to us, and we cheer for them. And that cheering is important. It's part of the homecoming experience. We need support to finish any athletic feat that we start. I heard a story recently about Ironman races. Ironmans are a ridiculous physical challenge. 2.5-mile swim, 112-mile bike ride, and a 26-mile run, completed all in one day. So Ironmans generally start at 7 a.m. and many people complete these races by the afternoon or evening, but the final cutoff to finish is midnight. Imagine how grueling that has to be. As people finish, they go and eat, and they hydrate, and they shower, and then many of them come back to the finish line to root on the other finishers. People are lining those last couple of miles of the race course, families and friends and fellow athletes and locals who want to encourage the finishers. Well, one particular Ironman in Hawaii, the clock was ticking down. It was about 15 minutes before midnight, and the announcer at the finish line said that a competitor named Mike was about 2 miles from the finish line. There was no way that Mike was going to run 2 7-minute miles and finish the Ironman before midnight. No way, unless he had some help. So all of the Iron men and women who had finished and returned to the sidelines knew what they had to do. They started back along the race course until they found Mike. And even more than usual, they hooped and hollered and they rang cowbells and shouted Mike's name and gave him the time and ran alongside him to help him keep pace, and they encouraged him to pour everything out for those final 2 miles. And as the time ticked down, 11:47, 11:50, 11:53, 11:55, 11:57, Mike could see the final straightaway in the finish line, and everyone realized just maybe he could make it. 11:58. The dull roar grew to a resounding rumble as he continued to pound the pavement, one foot in front of the other, so close. 11:59. The finish line was right there. Mike lengthened his strides. He breathed as deeply as he could, and he used that last bit of energy he had left. And he crossed just a few seconds before the clock struck midnight. And the applause around him was delirious. Everyone went crazy. Mike did it. He ran the race. He finished the Ironman. He just needed some help to get there. And that feeling of being coaxed beyond his limits, of all these people cheering for him and shouting his name, of not allowing him to lose hope, that's the same thing the saints are doing for us as we run our races through life. So whether you're a gamer or an Ironman or a violinist or a church person or a child soldier or a pediatrician or just an ordinary teenager in Timonian, Maryland, the communion of saints is lining your course, deliriously applauding every step you take. Saints can give us an enduring example of how to live well, but they're also our biggest cheerleaders. They are lining the course to heaven, cheering for us at every step, reminding us that while life is great, our ultimate homecoming is in heaven, and they will be there to help us get across the finish line.